In the heart of Texas, amidst the rolling plains and scorching heat, lies a tale of terror unlike any other. A story of a family twisted by madness and a man known simply by the moniker of Leatherface. This is the story of Bubba Sawyer, a man who became a monster, a butcher, and most of all, a horror legend. Bubba Sawyer was born into the infamous Sawyer family, a clan known for their brutal and unorthodox practices. Raised in the shadows of this deranged household, Bubba never had a chance to escape the darkness that surrounded him. His father, Drayton Sawyer, a butcher by trade, introduced Bubba to the art of meat carving at a young age. But it wasn't cattle or swine that the Sawyers carved. Bubba was different from other boys. A gentle giant with a childlike mind, he struggled to understand the world around him. But under his father's brutal guidance, Bubba learned that pain and suffering were the family business. They operated in the shadows, preying on those who strayed too far from civilization. Throughout the 1970s, dozens of people vanished without a trace in the Texas countryside. Hitchhikers, drifters, and tourists, no one was safe. What no one knew was that these victims had fallen into the hands of the Sawyer family, and it was Bubba who would deliver the final blow. Bubba was not just a killer, he was the family's enforcer. Hidden behind a mask of human skin, he silenced their victims, carving them up with the same tools used to butcher livestock. His weapon of choice, a chainsaw, a symbol of the brutality he inflicted upon his prey. He made multiple masks from the faces of his victims. Masks were Bubba's way of hiding from the world, a world he could never understand, a world that had only shown him cruelty. Each mask represented a different persona, allowing him to switch between the roles his twisted family needed him to play. As Leatherface, Bubba became an unstoppable force, driven by fear and manipulated by his family's cruelty. The Sawyers saw themselves as more than just murderers, they were grotesque artists, and Bubba was their masterpiece. Forensic psychologist specializing in criminal behavior, Dr. Evelyn Green.
Bubba Sawyer's transformation into Leatherface is a chilling example of how environmental factors can shape and distort a person's psyche. Raised in isolation, with constant exposure to violence and a lack of normal socialization, Bubba never had a chance to develop a moral compass. Instead, he was molded into a tool for his family's sadistic needs.
In 1974, the world got its first glimpse into the horrors that lay within the Sawyer household. After a survivor escaped, authorities descended upon the farm, uncovering a house of horrors. But the Sawyers had vanished, leaving behind only the blood-soaked evidence of their atrocities. When the authorities discovered the Sawyer home, they were confronted with a scene straight out of a nightmare. Human remains, makeshift furniture crafted from bones, and the unmistakable stench of death. But what stood out the most was the chilling realization that Leatherface was not just a mindless killer, he was a product of his environment, a weapon forged in the fires of familial abuse and twisted tradition. At the time, the authorities thought they had seen the last of Leatherface. But some monsters cannot be contained, and the legend of Leatherface only grew. As the years passed, sightings of Leatherface persisted. Some say he continued his gruesome work, fueled by a deep-seated need to please his family, even as they withered away. But others believe that something far more sinister awaited him. One fateful night, the sky cracked open and a force unlike anything Bubba had ever known descended upon him. It was as if the very darkness he had lived in his entire life had come to claim him. The entity, a malevolent force that preys on the souls of killers, had chosen Bubba as its next victim. In an instant, he was ripped from the world he knew and thrown into a nightmarish realm where he would be forced to kill again and again. In this new world, Bubba became one of the entity's most feared enforcers, forever hunting the living for the chance to escape the torment that had consumed him. But escape was impossible. He was trapped in a cycle of endless slaughter, his chainsaw roaring as he chased down survivors in the entity's twisted game. Once again, forensic psychologist, Dr. Evelyn Green.
The idea of Bubba being pulled into the entity's realm is symbolic in many ways. He was always a puppet, first to his family, then to his own monstrous instincts. In the world of Dead by Daylight, he's still a pawn, but now he's trapped in a purgatory where his only purpose is to perpetuate the cycle of violence. It's a tragic continuation of his life, a man who never had control, who now exists only to be used by forces beyond his understanding.
Bubba Leatherface Sawyer, once a pawn in his family's grotesque games, was now a prisoner in a far more terrifying world. A world where he was both hunter and prey, where the only way out was through death. But in this realm, even death offers no release. Leatherface. A man molded into a killer by his family. A butcher who became a horror legend,